This is season 4, and I am on a mission to help creatives become the most loved versions of themselves. I want to help you step into health in every single area of your life and pursue the authentic creative expression that you feel called to and that only you can. The world feels crazy right now, and we need healthy creatives more than ever. So let's get into it. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast. Welcome to the first episode of 2026. I missed you guys. I have been deep in the throes of holiday magic and also holiday stress, like probably so many of you. And I've just been thinking about you guys, and I am so sorry for the delay in December. Life is going to life all over you, and December just Decembered all over us. And there were hard things, but there were mostly really, really fun things and really good family memories and family time. And at this stage of my life at 42, like, this is just life. Life is just life. And my holidays were really fun. And if you get my newsletter or you follow me on Instagram, you know this has been the year of the nieces. I have 4 little girl nieces, my husband's brother and his wife. And they are like the girliest, most magical unicorn babies. And I love them. And it's made the holidays and my birthday, which is also in December, really fun. And so this December was like so much dress up and baking. They're 1 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, and 7 years old. And it was just a lot of holiday magic. Girly, pink, because I have 2 sons myself, and we had a lot of fun. My oldest is almost 15 and my youngest is 11. And it's just manland over here. It is like absolutely testosterone city. And so I just decided to really lean into the feminine. Already is a trend over the last few years of my life anyways. And I went like full girly pink wrapping paper, pink sugar cookies. It was a very girly Christmas over here at the Lancaster house. And I loved it. And then January, we're here. January came. I love a January. If you've heard my story, you know that a few years ago, about 10 years ago, 11, I started my own journey healing trauma and kind of getting to the bottom of what was keeping me really stuck, really, really, really depressed, actually, and really anxious. And that's actually an episode on this. Somewhere you can find it. I talk about my whole story. And, I had been doing therapy. I'd been doing so many things, but a few years into my process, I read a book that kind of changed the trajectory. Well, I read a few books actually that sort of changed the trajectory of my experience, my journey. And they were books that really focused more on like what you could do, what was possible for you, what you could create with your life. And I think that as somebody who was in a super conservative lifestyle, my options just kind of naturally felt more limited. I don't think to anyone's fault. It was just the culture I was in. And I remember really catching this idea that I could create my reality. I could create my life. I could actually live a life that's aligned to who I really am. And that is an entire journey, like really, really identifying what lights you up, who you actually are, and then healing what's in the way of you embodying that person and stepping towards that. All of that is just not for the faint of heart. And yet I think we're all invited to that experience. I think Gabor Mate said the greatest trauma that anybody can experience is not knowing who they are. So it's so helpful and important to think about the parts of us that may be hidden, the parts of us that might have had to, I don't know, be stowed away so that we felt like we could survive the world, and unearthing them and dusting them off and kind of softening the protectors around them is scary and thrilling and amazing. So a few years ago, I started writing down 10 things I wanted to say were true about my life 10 years from now. And I wrote this down every single day for a while. I still have those like notebook full of just very repetitive things. It was a regulating practice for me because my nervous system was so shot. I was so anxious, such intrusive thoughts, such just really painful self-protection, depression, heaviness. And I just felt like I was kind of going nowhere. My life had kind of fallen apart, and I was just, the definition of stuck, feeling so stuck. I have been really privileged to be able to work with supportive coaches over the years and therapists who have helped me to move forward and move beyond what kind of held me back. And it's now something that I help people do, and I love what I do. But I wanted to tell you guys all of this because I had a moment recently where I was taking this dance class. So like one of my like, New Year's resolutions, one of my goals for this year was to finally stop talking about participating in this dance class that they offer at our gym and to just jump in. I have like my nose pressed up against the wall every time I walk by this class, and they're doing it because it looks like so much fun. And I am like the world's most mid dancer with like the most commitment. Like not a good dancer, but I am good at a party because I just don't care, which I genuinely think is the only way to dance. I think it's the only way to dance well if you have a shot at dancing well. So I finally signed up for this class, and it was my first day on the other night. And the thing about this class too is probably 3 years ago or so, I was really just diving into the study of femininity and polarity and relationships, and just also embodying my femininity. I've always felt so drawn like to the extreme of like girly, like I just talked about my December, just feminine expression. And that comes in all shapes and form. I think my sometimes looks a little bit more conventionally feminine, and that's fine with me. That's just what lights me up. And I love it. I love I love a girly pop experience. And so I was telling a friend 3 years ago when I was just really uncovering all of this, like I think I was just like, I don't know what keeps me from really embodying this version of myself, stepping towards this. And she's like, well, what could you do to like help yourself practice it? And I was like, gosh, there's this freaking dance class that I want to take. And I want to, and I can't. I'm like totally stuck. I literally can't make myself go to this class. And so, we had talked about that. So I've taken it maybe a couple times over the years, and I just always, it's like, some of you will understand this. When you're coming out of a lot of stuckness, like especially being a sensitive person, overwhelm happens pretty easily, especially when in like high stimulating environments. And so for as much progress as I felt like I made, like that was just something for me that I was like, this is a lot, and I'm just gonna wait. And then, over the past like couple of years, I'm like a kid waiting to go on the jump rope, like, and just waiting and waiting and waiting. I like see this class on the schedule. I see it when I'm like walking through the gym, and I'm just like, oh, it looks so fun. The trainer or the dance instructor looks so fun. It looks like so much fun. So I finally was like, this is the year. I have the capacity. I have done so much work around so many other areas of who I am, and dancing is literally like on my list has been on my list. Not like I want to be a dancer, not like in the same way that I want to be or I am a singer. I I love singing. I feel very confident at singing, and I have a lot of work to do as well. But I am like a performer as a singer. I am not looking to be any kind of performer as a dancer at all. But it's like it calls to me. Like I love dancing. I love a beat. I love music. I love parties. I love weddings. I love it. So it's been something that's been on my list for a long time. So I take this class and I'm hanging on for dear life. And it was really fun though. And it felt really good to be there at this stage of my life after so much healing, even if it, might have been embarrassing for, I don't know, other versions of me, younger versions of me, other people maybe. I'm like middle-aged and 42, but I'm a cute 42-year-old, so it was fine. But I got in my car afterwards and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I've been feeling this kind of way that I want to try and explain. And as the year has turned from 2025 to 2026, I am such a go-getter when it comes to the things I want to create with my life. I'm such a goal setter and a New Year's resolver. And this is the first year that I sat down with my journal. I literally buy this, like, it's a golden coil planner journal that you create yourself. You guys should go check it out. They're not a sponsor, but I buy one. I've bought one every single year for the last like 5 years. And I write down everything I'm grateful for. I review my year. And then I think about what I want to create in the new year. And this was the first year that I literally sat with a blank page, not because I couldn't think of anything, but because I am literally living in my vision board. And I say that not to brag at all. Oh my gosh, because my life is so messy. Oh my gosh, there's so many messy parts of just life in general. Like you're never going to create a life that doesn't have life in it. Like it's hard conversations and painful growth experiences and new, you know, like things that are going to stretch your nervous system. That is just a part of life. But for the first time, there was nothing that I was like trying to create out of thin air because it's happening right now. And that dance class was like kind of this final piece, a small piece. Granted, it was a small piece, but it was like this final thing that I wasn't doing that I knew was in alignment for me. And I sat down in my car and I'm just sitting there and I just start crying. Like I I could feel almost like when somebody gets rescued off a desert island and it's like finally they're safe, but they're like crying because they're like relieved and confused and like, where am I? What the heck? I felt all of that. And I felt over the last week and a half, I've really been sitting with this feeling of like the shift between wanting and having and how vulnerable that feels and how I didn't expect for that to be something that would be hard for me to be with or to figure out or to feel. Not necessarily hard in a painful way, but like my nervous system hasn't known what to do with that. Um and this is, I realize now, of course, after, being in this world and studying this is why people self-sabotage, is because we would much rather it was so familiar for me to be in a wanting phase because there were so many things that I was out of alignment in. And I had to be, I could have done it in a lot healthier ways, probably, but I had to be this person that was like, I mean, I remember I would write in my journal, I am going to heal so effing hard, which is such a funny thing to write, but it's because I was so anxious. I can't even tell you how I didn't even know a person could live with that level of constant anxiety day in and day out, from the time you wake up, from the time you go to bed. And then there was the depression that inevitably came from being in anxiety too long. And I didn't know that you could live that dissociated, that disconnected from like the world around you. That was terrifying. And I just remember like my determination was what, combined with the guidance of God, of love, was what got me out of that place. I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And this was really important for me to say this like this. I literally didn't know how. I don't know how this is going to happen, but I know that I'm going to find my way out of this. I'm going to heal so freaking hard. And so I have, like I said, life is so messy, but I did, and I'm here. And I think my passion for creatives to really know how special they are. We're all special, of course, but like my personal passion is for creatives to know how special they are and how beautiful the gifts and the dreams that God has put inside of their hearts are, and how important it is to follow that like a North Star and not doubt yourself, or rather, instead of not doubt yourself, maybe make friends with the doubt. It's always been a through line of my purpose and passion. Even when I felt so lost, I can look back and see that that's always been something that I've been passionate about. And because of that, now I'm here, and now I get to talk to you guys about it and encourage people and give people as much information and science and encouragement as I can around like how possible it is to heal, and how possible it is to create the life that is actually in alignment. And that's what I would say is, when we're talking about dreams, I want you to start wherever you are and keep following those rabbit trails of the things that light you up. But really, it's not because we're aiming for this like perfect life where you feel perfectly peaceful and you're never triggered. That's just never going to happen, especially for the sensitive people that we are as creatives. But what I do believe is essential and possible is to live a life of alignment, to be involved in the things and the friend groups and the communities and the passions and the hobbies and the pursuits that are in alignment with who you are. And that takes time to figure it out. And good news is you have time. You really do have time. So it's exciting because a really big piece that I haven't talked about is the music that I'm pursuing this year with my creative partner, Jason, who you guys will meet. We're actually going to start another podcast all about dreaming for midlife, like actually pursuing a dream. We're going to document our process of forming a band and writing and producing music. And I'm really excited about that. That's been a piece that I've wanted to have for forever. And we've been putting that together all last year. Oh my gosh, the amount of time. And it's not like I've kept it a secret. It's just been something that hasn't been ready to be birthed yet. And now it's here, and we have a whole system in place to move towards this. And it just feels exactly right. Even if it's just a totally bombs and doesn't go anywhere. Like it will not even matter to me at all, because it's what I know that I'm here to do for right now. So stay tuned for more on that if you're interested. But I'm mentioning that because the 10 things that I wrote down 10 years ago are happening. Not 10 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, are happening. And I don't know, the timing is perfect. And so just to encourage you that healing is possible, and creativity, most importantly, the creation of your life, is so possible. So this leads us to January. January's topic that we are covering all over Instagram and in my newsletter is brain retraining. Brain retraining is a practice that was introduced to me when I was really struggling with chronic symptoms. A doctor actually told me to look into a program called the Gupta program. And there are a lot of different programs: the Gupta program, DNRS, dynamic neural retraining system, and primal trust is another program. Um, and you don't need those programs. You can look into them if you're super interested. But basically, I think I've done 3 different programs over the years, and they all are teaching the same thing. I want to note that it was my doctor that told me to do this. And I really want to highlight that because a body that is in stress will produce consistent chronic symptoms. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to go into that too much, but I do have a guest that's going to help me kind of unpack that. And Katie Nickerson is going to be here in a couple weeks. She's done an episode with me on brain retraining a couple of years ago, and we're really going to dive into it, as well as Alyssa, I think it's pronounced Delilio. She has a program that is so beautiful, all about neuroplasticity and using your brain to teach yourself that you're going to survive your future, the future that you hope for. And so this practice of brain retraining, very, very simply put, it is giving your brain new sensory and emotional evidence of safety. So basically, your brain's job is not truth. Isn't that crazy? I remember learning about this and just my mind was blown. Your brain's job is not truth, it's survival. It constantly predicts danger or safety based on past experience. So like trauma, stress, illness, heartbreak, chronic pressure, they wire the brain to way over predict threat. I remember somebody telling me, or no, I heard it on a podcast. So by the time my doctor had told me about brain retraining, I had heard of it, but I hadn't thought of doing it for myself. But I heard about somebody, it was Corey Malloy, I think her name is. And she talked about how she did a brain retraining program. And her biggest takeaway from that program is like, we can teach our brains that there is no emergency. And that resonated for me so deeply, because I wouldn't have said at the time I'm living like there's an emergency, but I 100% was. And so by the time the doctor had recommended this to me, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is what I have to do. And very simply, it is, like I said, it's giving your brain new evidence that you're safe, but it's consciously imagining goodness. We're going to expand on that, but I want you to remember that. Consciously remembering and rehearsing goodness. So the science behind it is that neuroplasticity tells us that your brain rewires through repetition and experience. Predictive processing means like the brain runs on predictions, not necessarily reality. Like it's something like 95% of what you're afraid of never actually happens. And then polyvagal theory, we know like safety activates all the things that you want to experience: safety, creativity, connection, play. So when the brain detects safety, it shifts from your sympathetic state or even your dorsal state and helps you move up towards your ventral vagal state, your state of safety and connection. So where you're creative and social and open and all of the things. So when you are consciously spending time rehearsing, I think initially I would do a long time. I wouldn't even recommend this, honestly, but the program that I did at first, I think it had you do like 45 minutes of brain retraining. And what you would do is you would first begin to imagine a memory from the past that was really beautiful, really good. It could even be really small, like an amazing cup of coffee watching the sunrise, or like having an amazing conversation with a friend and laughing really hard. One of my favorite things I always like to bring up, because this is where ventral moments happen for me a lot, is like driving down a beautiful road, listening to your favorite song of the moment. If you can spend time, and it would have me spend time remembering what that moment was like, using your 5 senses or as many senses as you can to really relive that moment. So you would take those memories and you would really rehearse them, marinate in them. And then the other half of the 45 minutes is then you would imagine a future memory that you want to experience, basically trying to show your brain that the future that you hope for is safe. And so you would imagine like I used to imagine I lived by the beach, which I do now. I live by the beach and I'm going on walks with my family and we're together and we're whatever, happy and laughing. And this particular brain retraining, I think, would have me say it out loud. Like, I'm in Laguna Beach, I'm walking down the beach and the sun is setting and I can feel the sand under my feet and I can hear the waves. I can feel the wind on my face. I feel my husband's hand in mine. And by speaking it out, you're giving yourself sort of a double reinforcement because not only are you thinking it, but you're hearing it. And just that amount of time, let's say it's 45 minutes, I honestly would start with 5 minutes. That amount of time, what you are potentially doing is releasing what they call dose neurochemistry. So before I get into that, I want to say, let's just take a minute and imagine that I came to your house and I brought you some lemons from the lemon tree in the backyard. And I put down this bowl of lemons and there was a lemon on top that I grab. I grab a knife and I cut the lemon in half and you can see that waxy yellow lemon. I cut it in half. It's really juicy inside. You pick up a half and you bring it to your face. You smell it. You can smell that citrusy smell. And I want you to imagine taking a big giant bite of that lemon. Did your mouth salivate a little bit? Or did you maybe make a scrunchy face? Your brain is not good at being able to tell what is real and what's imagined. How freaking wild is that? You can convince your brain that you are experiencing something that's not necessarily true. As a matter of fact, as anxious creatives, we do this all the time, but for the negative. So what's really powerful when we know that, though, is that we can use that information for good. We can use our imagination to imagine ourselves in places and situations and circumstances that are life-giving. And what happens is that you release dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical that brings you motivation. Serotonin, which is emotional stability. Oxytocin, which is the chemical of connection and trust. GABA, which is the calm and slows your nervous system down if you're unsympathetic. It also releases endorphins that allow for pleasure, or relief of any pain. The thing is, when the brain senses threat, cortisol and adrenaline dominate. So anxiety, fatigue, brain fog, shutdown, inflammation. Your brain, when we do brain retraining, it teaches your body to release the right chemistry for the kind of life and peace that you want. This is critical for creatives because so many creatives have really highly sensitive nervous systems. I certainly do. I always have. Deep emotional memory. We really memorize and have things in our memory in technicolor, or we imagine into the future, just bright, true, maybe scary or just very vivid images. And we have a high imagination, which the brain can turn into fear. And for so many of the creatives that I help, the things that they're wanting to create actually are bringing them things that technically, and usually, I should say, feel like danger. We're talking about creatives that want to put out art and music and books and blogs and podcasts and things that make them visible, and things that are directly usually related to self-expression, things that feel very, very dangerous to the nervous system. And so we want to if you are, for so many reasons, we want to consciously rehearse goodness because there are a lot of signals of danger. We want to rehearse goodness and safety to counteract that. Yeah, you don't need to fix yourself. I feel like so much of the information on social media, so much of it, honestly, I actually really appreciate and it's good. But a lot of it also is not so good and is kind of trying to convince you to fix yourself. You do not need to be fixed. You need to give your nervous system new evidence of safety. And that's why I am excited to dive into this topic. Oh my gosh, you guys, the future is bright. And I know, and I know, and I know that it seems really scary for some of us right now, whether because you are just collecting the data on how long you've been stuck or because of all of the news that you're hearing. I truly believe that healthy creatives are a part of the healing of this world. And I think that you're one of them. And so if you've listened this far, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here. It's going to be a really exciting year. And I just want to plug a couple of things. I have the Daily Practice Design Guide, which I think is actually a really excellent resource for January, because there is a momentum to January, and it doesn't have to be a something's wrong, I need to fix it. It can be more of like a clarifying momentum of like, okay, I am more myself than I was this time last year. Like, what do I want to create with my life? So the Daily Practice Design Guide actually has a visualization, like we just talked about, imagining the same thing that I imagined for myself. So what are 10 things you want to say are true about your life 10 years from now? It will walk you. I created the visualization, so you'll hear my voice walking you through the different areas of your life and imagining the best case scenario for each of those areas. Might feel really vulnerable, which is why 10 years is actually a great amount of time, because your nervous system's like, 10 years from now? Sure, we can imagine that. Who cares? It's not tomorrow. But what that does, I mean, it did not take me 10 years to be living in the list that I started creating. So what that will do for you is it will begin to help you get clarity on what you're trying to create. And from there, there's a whole menu of different habits to choose from to help you with whatever your goals are. If you need, I have you pick a goal from pick a habit from the list of like nervous system regulating habits to choose from, moving towards your creative goal habits, spiritual practices, emotional health practices, like picking habits from each of those and letting that just be your bare minimum, which Alyssa is going to talk about actually. That's going to move you forward. It can't not. I remember Sarah, my mentor, and trauma therapist, told me once, Courtney, you're not so special that this work won't work for you. She was right. I'm like, no, I'm a special kind of broken. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but truly, like designing your own unique daily practice, it will actually move you forward. It will. So that's the Daily Practice Design Guide. I also have the 10 Gifts meditations, which is like the 10 emotional needs that every person has. There's a meditation for each of those. If you're finding yourself with lack, you can fill that using visualizations. And the Heal Create method is a course that I have for creatives that really walks you through the process that I talked about, that I went through myself earlier, which was uncovering your identity and what you're here to do and figuring out what is in the way of you embodying that. It is an extensive course. You can look at that on the landing page on my website, courtneylancaster.co. But, if you are a fan or if you are enjoying any of this, if you want to subscribe to this podcast, that really helps us. I just learned about this and have been told to mention it. So apparently that really helps us. And it will build this community of people that we have. There have been thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads, and I am thrilled. I love you guys. I'm excited for the year. I'm here for you. Reach out if you need anything. Find me at Courtney Lan, Courtney Lan on Instagram, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.